mythical creature has a belly, I could make the belly out of the coil pot and then add legs, attach legs to it. I could take my pinch pot and attach it on here too, and that could be like the base of my creature. Now, if I was gonna do that, it's important to attach them properly so they won't fall apart, so they have a strong connection. And when you make a strong connection with two pieces of clay, it's called scoring and slipping. And I'll do that to connect these two pieces together. So I could create some sort of body from here. Maybe it will sit here and then arms come out, or I'll add a head on there. Okay, so you might be thinking, if you do that, essentially I'm making one gigantic air bubble. So what is gonna happen to that in the kiln? So you'll have to make sure after you do your scoring and slipping that you make some holes in there to release the air somewhere. And the holes only have to be as open as a pencil, thick as a pencil. All right, so let's talk about scoring and slipping. You have slip on the clay cart, and I like to take the cover off of the slip. We just have the brush in there, and then at the end of class, you can put it back on. So I'll take the cover off. What slip is, it's like clay glue, but all it is watered down glue. If I put it directly on here and then stick those together, there's no reason really for it to stick because there's no connection. So it will just, when it's dry, it will just come apart. So what you want to do to make the connection so it sticks together is to score the area. You can use your needle tool or your toothpick to score. And scoring is like making tic-tac-toe boards all over the area that you're going to connect together. And that's so the slip can go down in those areas. It's maybe 4 millimeters down. You just want to get down below the surface. It doesn't have to be too far down. So I'm scoring the surface. And then I'll add some lines going in a different direction. So that one's ready. So if I put the slip on here now, the slip will go down in there and it will become part of the clay. So I need to do that to my other surface here too. I'm just gonna flatten this out. Okay, so I'm gonna score this surface. And add some lines in the other direction too. Think tic-tac-toe boards. Okay, they're both scored. They are a little bit floppy still. You might do this next class when it's had a chance to dry a little bit. We store it in plastic so the moisture doesn't completely leave it. But when the walls are a little bit more sturdy, then you don't have to worry about different parts of it collapsing. But for now, we're just gonna attach these two and see how it goes. Okay, so the good slip is not this watery stuff. There's just a little bit of clay in there. Instead, it's this globby, mushy stuff. And it's okay if you're, get your fingers dirty. If it's really globby on there, great. You want it to be globby, not just watery. Get those globs right on here. So I put it on this one. I'm also gonna put it on this one so it goes in both of the scored areas. Just get all that globby stuff on there. And then I'll put this on, try and line it up the best I can. One trick that you can use when you're doing this, actually a couple tricks I'll teach you. Your thumbnail is a good one for pushing it together where you control it. Sometimes if you're pushing with this, you'll start to push your clay piece in, so you can kind of smooth out with your thumbnail. Also, you can use a coil. make a thinner coil, and this will help attach it together. So I'll put that right on my seam. Goes most of the way. And then you can just mush it in there. Smooth it into the surface. Any part you don't like, you can just break it off, set it aside. But that helps the connection be even stronger. You have to think ahead to when the clay dries. Will it stick together? What's holding it together? If you just set two pieces of clay together, when it's dry, it will just come apart. It has to have some connection. So here, the slip is drying as part of the clay, and so these two pieces are connected. I am struggling a little bit here with how soft the clay is, but I think you can get the idea. Okay, so let's say that this is the body of my creature, my sculpture that I'm making. It is a giant air bubble. You can think about where you want the air to be able to go out. And let's say I'll just make the mouth here. And that hole is plenty big enough to let the air escape so your piece won't explode. You can, if you don't want it to be on your piece here, you can cut a piece out of the inside. And now if you add other pieces to this, let's say, I'll just make a quick pinch pot here. And let's say I'm adding a head to the top. So let's say I'm adding that on there. Again, I'm making a big air bubble. So you can think about before you attach it, you could reduce any risk of explosion by removing some of the clay here, scoring and slipping this on, and then maybe you'll make the eyeballs be holes into the skull. So I can score and slip that on there. Same way, let me do a little score and slip demo again. We are really looking for you to make strong connections. That's part of your craftsmanship that we're looking at. You're developing skills, you're understanding how clay works and how to make clay sculptures by making good connections with scoring and slipping. Just put those globs right on there, nice and globby. Get the gooky stuff. It's okay if stuff oozes out the sides, you can just wipe that off. Okay. And again, so you can clean that up with your wood tool, just remove that extra slip. Okay, probably a question that you have is why did I make this a pinch pot? And I'll just review too, there's air that can flow in here, it can flow through that neck hole that I made, and it can flow out here, so there's places for the air to escape. But why didn't I just like make a sphere like this and stick that on? That would be pushing it for too much density of the clay. If you have too much density, there's a high likeliness that your clay will explode also in the kiln. So any thickness, kind of a rule to go by, if it's more than 2 fingers thick anywhere, there's a possibility it will explode. So you're better to work with thinner walls, thinner areas, hollow this out. You can make a shape, whatever shape that you want it to be, say it's a sphere, and then take the loop tool and hollow it out if you aren't into making a pinch pot out of it. You can make your own slip as you're doing this. All these little pieces, if you break little pieces up and then just throw them back into the slip, your clay will become slip and you'll use it next class. Okay, and then maybe if you have an unusual shape, this works really well, but you just want to go in and make sure that your walls are even again and none of them are too thick all the way around. And then maybe, you know, that's his hat or something, you can put that on there. Okay, so all these little pieces that you have, just go ahead and break them into small pieces so they can disseminate and become slick. Okay, something fun that we can do also if you want to. This coil pot, you can see it's white and then it's carved through to the orange clay. When this clay is fired, it's kind of orangey. We have slip, like this slip, that we buy that's made out of white clay. And so if you add white slip on top of your sculpture or on top of your pot, the glazes will be more vibrant on the white clay. It will give it a lighter base for the glazes. So if you want to, you can take some white slip and a soft brush, and I'll have a little bit of trouble here where it's wet. I can take a sponge and sponge off my wetter areas here. But you can do this too after your clay has dried a little bit. If you want more vibrant colors with your sculpture, you can just go ahead and without brushing back and forth too much, you just put a layer on. You just don't want to go back and brush it too much in here because the orange clay starts to combine and mix with the white slip. So this is thinking ahead if you want your sculpture to have more of a white look to it and then also to have more vibrant glaze colors. You have to be careful that you don't fill your air escape holes while you're doing this too. There we go. It is. And you can do all of it or just part of it, whatever you want. Okay, so then we'll let this dry and you can carve through it and get this scratched through look. I'll just do an example here with the loop tool just so you can see the possibilities. Let's say you want to add a belt on this guy. I'm just taking some of this extra clay out of here. You're just going to scratch through the surface and then remove that layer you just put on there. So this is a technique called SGRAFFITO. It's like doing graffiti through the top layer of the clay, of a slip or an underglaze, and you can make whatever designs on here. It's easier to make the designs when you let this dry, and it will probably take until next class to dry. So if you let it dry and then you can scratch through it. These little white slip pieces, it's fine if they go in here too. The orange will take over and it will just become part of that slip.